Dustin. You just put a whole bunch of swear jars in the chat. What's up with that?
That's just how I feel right now. What's up with you?
Oh, same old. Rome puts it in hashtag you gotta laugh. Yeah, we're laughing.
Yeah, I'm laughing to hide my tears.
Oh my gosh. Is that the biggest blow up you've seen in the Canucks this entire season?
Oh, for a meltdown, yeah. 4-1 with 5 minutes to go. Yikes.
Brutal.
To be fair, the first 2 goals weren't Demko's best work.
Yeah.
Goal 1, a softie. Goal 2, cheating off the post, goes in off the back of his head. Oh my goodness. But then the breakdowns at the end, that's where the guys on the blue line got to step up. And normally Hughes would have been out there in a lot of those, on a couple of those shifts that Seattle was able to bury them at the end there. And then in overtime as well, not having Hughes, Myers with a golden opportunity and then goes full chaos giraffe, passes it to nobody and gives a 2-on-0 back the other way. Like, get a shot on net and let your guys try and get a rebound or something. Don't go for the hero move when you are not that guy. Like, Myers is not the guy to be trying to set up a beauty play in overtime. Just shoot the puck, keep it simple. And they stopped keeping it simple. They sat back, let Seattle push the play. And this is the result. Juleson and Susie on the 4-3 goal, completely boneheaded play, and just a lack of push to continue to drive the play, which we had been controlling basically the entire game, until that call of the 5th goal was called back on Joshua, and then it just kind of changed. And I don't know what what happened to our attitude on the bench, but for a team that had been struggling to score, was on a 5-game losing streak, you have them on the ropes and you let them do that. That's just pretty inexcusable, in my opinion, as an NHL club.
The shorty said 5 goals in the last 7 minutes of playing time against the Canucks there.
Yeah.
14 shots, 14 hits in the first period, only 5 hits per period after that. Is it something like the Canucks let their foot off the gas pedal when it came to their physical play?
Well, absolutely. Just because you're up 3-1 doesn't mean you need to stop playing your game. And then that's what they did, is they got up and then they got 4-1, and you could see they just fell into a shell and allowed Seattle to dictate the play for the majority of that third period, for the majority of the end of that third period. Um, Trying to make passes for an empty net and just making stupid plays. I mean, it was just dumb hockey. And it's guys that are playing more minutes than they normally would play because certain players are out of the lineup, and then you start to make the mental errors, and you're out there in situations you normally wouldn't be out there in. And this is where it gets scary if we talk about a long-term Hughes injury or long-term Pettersson injury even, because Pettersson blocks a lot of shots and he does a lot of work in our end, especially late in the game if we're trying to hold a lead or do different things like that. It's those intangibles that makes Pettersson just as valuable as when he's putting the puck in the net. So, boy, oh boy, I wouldn't want to be in that locker room for Talkett's postgame after this one. Although realistically, he shouldn't have to say much. Most of the guys should know, and silence might speak more after this one.
RS5 in chat. An egg has been laid. I know, it might be a whole dozen eggs there.
I think that was probably the most frustrating loss of the year to watch. To watch that complete breakdown after they had done so well to play the game that they needed to play with Hughes and Petey out of the lineup, and just to take 5 minutes of complete mental breakdown and hand the game basically to Seattle.
I'd like to place full blame for this loss on Jake Stakes Hockey, who showed up late and then put in chat that he wanted overtime because he wanted to watch more hockey today. So if you want to put any hate on anyone, we should get Jake Stakes Hockey in the Canucks locker room to get yelled at by the coach. Vince Dunn, the Seattle Kraken, came on like crazy, right? Like he is probably the main reason that ends up happening because he sets up the Jaden Schwartz goal. He scores unassisted and then he scores in overtime. So he ends up, those are all the points he got in the whole game. He ends up being the first star of the game, 2 goals and an assist. Both of his goals are unassisted. Vince Dunn, where did we see this coming from? Did we expect that from him?
Oh yeah, I mean he's been the driving force on their blue line. Last year he had a breakout season. This year he was out early for with a injury. So he's just recently back, and he did exactly what Vince Dunn has done for the last couple of seasons for Seattle. He drives that play, and with him and Montour out there, it's tough to stop that top line that they have going. When they're firing on all cylinders, they can be a good team, but obviously they have had their struggles recently. Maybe this pushes them in the direction of getting some wins strung together, but definitely not what we want to see from our guys going into the end of the year here, when we head out to Calgary on the 31st.
And in our this episode of Nothing is Perfect Canucks Logic, Daniel Sprong gets his 3rd assist of the season on the Jaden Schwartz goal that made it 4-2. So another former Canuck getting points against us.
Yes. It's just good old Murphy's Law is what we Canucks fans are used to. If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. And boy, today went wrong.
And boy, did that second power play for the Canucks look terrible, eh? Without Quinn Hughes out there. I mean, they looked fine and they scored on the 4-on-3, but when it was a 5-on-4 power play, they did not look like they had any idea what they were doing.
Well, you're missing 2 of your number 1 power play unit guys that are the 2 main puck movers. So, yeah, that's gonna hurt your power play big time. Obviously, the first power play was successful, but it was such a quick face-off play that they didn't really have to show anything within setting up the zone and stuff like that. So once we saw a full 2-minute power play there, missing Hughes and missing Pedersen, it did not look pretty. So fingers crossed these guys are only missing this game and we can get back to our full lineup next game without Hronek, obviously. But on the good news front, he did start skating, I believe, this morning. So his lower body procedure that he had while his shoulder heals up seems to be healing up nicely.
That's good. So that means he's probably right on his timeline, probably about 4 weeks away or something like that.
Yeah.
Brock Besser, 2 goals again. That's 4 goals in his last 2 games. That's probably a good sign, just regardless of the fact that they barely beat the Sharks and then they lose in overtime to Seattle. It's good to see Brock Besser getting back on the score sheet.
Yep. Besser had a good game. DeBrusk, nice goal there to get ahead. And that top line, we talked about how certain guys are going to have to step up. And I said JT Miller, Jake DeBrusk, Brock Besser. So you got Miller, 2 assists, DeBrusk getting a goal, Besser getting 2 goals. So those guys did their job. Unfortunately, the guys on the blue line just kind of lost their way for the last 5 minutes. And I don't know if it was just because they were tired, not used to playing that many minutes, but yeah, I hope we see Hughes back next game.
We're all hoping and praying at this point. Canucks Oz with 5 gifted memberships into the chat there. So some shout out to Canucks Oz trying to show you up, Dustin, after you came in early and dropped your 5 gifted subs to start the game. Thank you again for that, brother. Feeling generous after
No
Christmas?
problem. Hey, man, happy to support.
Jaden Schwartz with the 2 goals in the game, taking up the 3rd star, rounding out that. So you got Vince Dunn, Brock Besser, and Jaden Schwartz. I mean, Brock Besser is probably the guy you give that one to. You probably could have given it to other people on the Canucks too if they didn't have such a meltdown there. I was even thinking Susie might deserve a spot in the 3 stars. He had 2 assists in the game, setting up Garland, setting up Besser. I was looking pretty good, and then he went from being the guy who's setting things up to setting up Seattle instead. How does How does a game go from being that good for Susie to being so bad?
It's just not staying focused and not remembering what made you successful in the first uh, 45 minutes of the game, or 55 minutes of the game rather.
Yeah.
You know, really we just needed 5 more minutes of those guys hanging on and doing the smart play, clearing it to the outside, just chipping it out. But they're so focused on trying to get it to the empty net, rather than just chipping it out or sending it up the boards, that it really cost us a couple times there in our own end. So um, maybe they need to go back to practicing that shoot from our own end, empty net, or just shoot it on the net. Don't try and be cute with it, because definitely a couple times being cute today, it cost us.
Well, Hoglander was cute for a minute. I thought he was actually going to get an early chance off of being cute, and he ends up dishing it to the point. That seems a little strange that he got all the way to a good spot to shoot it and then dish it back to the point.
Yeah, I wanted him to take a backhand shot there so bad. That's just a guy who has zero confidence in himself. Showed some good signs of puck control and using his body, winning some puck battles and creating some scoring chances. But boy, oh boy, did he need to shoot that puck just to maybe get lucky and beat Grubauer there with a flutter backhand or something, just a seeing eye shot. But yeah, that was a play that definitely didn't enjoy seeing him dump it back to the blue line. And maybe that's one that the coaches can say, hey, look, this is really good stuff here, but you got to shoot it now. Like, we're happy with the progress you've made, but you still need to think offensively when the time comes.
So if I were to tell you the Canucks have points in 5 of their last 6 games, would that make you feel better?
No,
Because you know that
not
3
at
of those
all.
are overtime losses.
That's the problem, is we got to find a way to win in overtime. It's not good enough just getting the 1 point, especially when you're giving points to division rivals. So we need to find a way to A, close out these games, especially up 4-1 with 5 minutes left, and B, find a way to either close the game out in overtime or get to a shootout, because we're really not having success when we give up possession in OT. We're not finding a way to get the puck back, and the chances we're generating definitely aren't as dangerous as the ones we're seeing against. So
No.
maybe we need to practice more 3-on-3. I'm not sure um, what can help that. Maybe a personnel change or something, but obviously not having Hughes in overtime is a huge blow. But you got to have someone else in the lineup that can run it out there. And if Hughes is out, maybe you run three forwards. Who knows? But it's they got to be better. Those points can cost you in the playoff race late in the year. So got to find a way to get one or two of those extra points when we're struggling here.
They now have 8 overtime losses, 8 overtime or shootout losses so far this season. So they have 10 regulation losses and 8 overtime or shootout losses. So they're almost matched. They're tied there. Only 17 wins. So if you look at it, they're technically, if you go off losses, they're a game below 500 at this point. But because they get all those loser points, 8 points, it keeps them in a wild card spot, which keeps them in the race, which you do love to see. But at the same time, like you said, you need to learn to close these games out, especially with a 4-1 lead in the third period.
Yeah, 25 wins looks a lot better than eight loser points.
Yeah. They now have 17 wins, and then you got Calgary and Seattle behind them, both with 16 wins. I mean, Calgary's got the 7 overtime losses as well. But I mean, it's still, when your record's the same, essentially the same as the Calgary Flames at this point in the season, you're probably starting to get concerned.
Yes, very much so.
Let's see. Is there a silver lining in this game? Their penalty kill was really good.
Yep, penalty kill was strong. Honestly, that fourth line had a really strong game. I think they did well uh, to keep the play down in the other end of the ice, but probably not Demko's strongest game. Definitely not the best ending from Susie or Myers. Um, yeah, It's tough. It was looking so good there. They had a really, really strong 55 minutes. Like that was a good game with two major players out, and then just a complete collapse.
Yeah, and like we talked about earlier, like Seattle was coming in on a 5-game losing streak. Now we play another team that we probably should handle well, but obviously we don't know the status of Hughes and Pedersen going into this next game coming up against Calgary. It's a 6 o'clock start coming up next week on Monday or Tuesday. What day is it? It's Tuesday. Tuesday.
Yep, Tuesday the 31st, New Year's Eve game.
New Year's Eve game. Whoa, I mean, like early predictions. What are you looking at? Are the Canucks gonna play better after a big loss, or do we have no idea because the Canucks are chaos?
I think right now we still don't know what we're going to get from this team on any given night. They still struggle to find their identity, and whether or not Hughes plays that game plays a huge role in what we're going to get. So it really changes the game plan and the strategy when he leaves the lineup, because so many of our offensive plays go through him. Um, so it just remains to be seen. It probably, until we know whether he's going or not, we won't know what we're gonna get. And even if he is going, who knows? We could get another good 55 minutes and 5 minutes of brain farting, but you never know.
As of today, the Canucks and the Flames have the same record in the last 10 games, 4-3-3. So both are not looking real great. So we
No,
might see
no.
another bottom dweller kind of a game where chaos reigns for the most of the part, and then we'll see what happens after that. But yeah, I think you're right. It really comes down to if Quinn Hughes and Pedersen are still out, then all bets are off, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there anything you wanted to say about the Abbey Canucks? I know they are playing again on Monday, December 30th. It's a 5 p.m. game against the Calgary Wranglers. Is there anything we need to know for that game?
Nothing major. No huge updates yet. Obviously, hoping to bounce back from a couple of losses against the Roadrunners before Christmas, but looking to get started on the right foot after the break and into the new year. So we'll be keeping an eye on that game on the 30th, and we'll let you know about that when we talk on the 31st.
Hopefully we have some, maybe we have some gifts left over from Christmas we can go play with now to make ourselves happy, because that's not how you want to see the Canucks end a game.
No, that's not how you want to. That's not how you want to finish after a strong start and some positive play. That's a tough one.
All right, Dustin, don't beat yourself up too much. Remember, it's all Jake's Take's fault. He will be
Yep.
putting together a video. I hope in his video tonight he takes full responsibility for that loss. And I guess we'll talk again on Tuesday during the Calgary versus Vancouver game at 6 o'clock.
Sounds great, Russ. Take care, and we'll talk to you then.
Nothing is perfect.